So that's what's possible when we don't hold on to blame, is that we focus on ourselves, we focus on our needs instead of this other entity or person. It's easy to blame, we blame the government, we blame people, we blame our neighbor, pick somebody. You do it, I do it. But to live in allow, we must be able to release blame. So I've been doing this little mini-series called The Power of Allow, and this is the last week of that, so 3 weeks, that's enough, right? But I want to do a little review because I feel like it's good to package this whole thing together, these ideas of allowing and the power of allowing versus the power of making it happen, and because we're so much about that, so much of our life about making it happen. And so I talked about in the first week about some foundational beliefs that in order to express this power, in order to live the power of allow, it's wise, and we're wise to have these foundational beliefs. And the first foundational belief is that we can't control everything, that we can't possibly do that. And while we know it intellectually, while we know that we can't change everything intellectually, a lot of times in our life we resist that, or we think we can, right? Because we're like, oh, if I just work hard enough, if I just do this, this will happen. But life events happen, and we have absolutely no control over life events. And I pointed out some examples when I talked about it before, but one of the things that I wanted to repeat from the book, The 5 Things We Cannot Change, are these exact things. Everything changes and ends. We can't control that. Everything changes and ends. Everything. Things do not always go according to plan. Oh my gosh, that's true. Even when you do everything right, even when you dot all the I's and cross all the T's, they do not go according to plan. Life is not always fair. In other words, I am not always treated fairly. You are not always treated fairly. That's the truth. That's the truth. I don't know why we try to fight it, but that's the truth. Pain is a part of life. Pain is a part of life. Physical pain, emotional pain, spiritual pain, psychological pain. We all go through it. Grief. Pain is a part of life. So we're not wise to resist it. That's the truth. And people are not loving and loyal all the time. People are not loving and loyal all the time because we're imperfect to begin with. I like to boil it down to say anything can happen to anyone at any time. Anything can happen to anyone at any time. That's the truth. So if we understand that, we don't have to be discouraged by it. We simply have to know that we all play on that same playing field. We all play on that same playing field. That's the truth of life. That's the truth. And it should inspire us really in how we live rather than discourage us in how we live. The second foundational belief that I talked about is that there is this essence. There is this vibration. There is this higher power. There is this God, whatever you call that, in the universe that works beyond what we can see. That power, that vibration, that God in the universe, that universal love, wants only for us to feel love and to know that we are love itself. This is a foundational belief. These two beliefs are what allows us to be in that place of allowing. Because otherwise we're holding on for dear life. If we know that we're not in charge, if we know we can't change everything, and we know there's something else out there and in there that is God itself wanting us to know love, wanting us to know who we truly are and what we truly are, man, it takes that edge off, doesn't it? And I also talked about then last week about some practices to help us help ourselves be at ease with it. And that's the power of prayer and meditation. Prayer being the idea that I am inviting truth into my very being, that I'm inviting the truth right into every cell of my body, that I'm inviting this, what I can't see out here, this possibility, that I'm inviting that in so that I can become closer to God, so that I can become closer to that spiritual essence of the truth of what I am. And I gave some examples. I prayed last week and had some examples of how I pray, because at the end of prayer, I want to have a prayer experience. You know, I want to be changed at the end of a prayer. I want to feel differently. I want to be different. I want to be in a different mindset and heart set at the end of a prayer. And that's what that is, a space, and creating space of allow, creating space in me. The second idea is, of course, meditation. And meditation is to put my body and my mind at ease. To invite ease into me. To invite ease. Do you hear that? That's what it's about. It's about the practice of stillness. The practice of being still. You know, and these are practices that help us, like I said, be in ease and get us to that place of allowing rather than going out and trying to resist and change things all the time. It's not that we don't. I'll be doing the power of action sometime in the future here. But this is the power of allow. Okay, and those two practices are really important ways of bringing ourselves into ease. It puts us in that mindset and heart set of not trying to control what happens, but to allow it to flow through us. And that's really what the power of allow is. The power of allow is living in the flow of life. Living in the flow of life. It allows us to not be so wrangled by our emotions. To be in the flow of life means to bring ourselves to life with more ease and grace. It doesn't mean that things are peachy keen all the time. Peachy keen. And that came to me and I looked it up. I was like, where did that come from? Peachy keen. Anybody know? Peachy keen. You can Google it, of course, or you can ask the Google. You know what the Google thinks. But in 1948, there was a DJ in Southern California who started like doing his lingo rapo thing, and peachy keen is one of the things he came up with. You know, peachy keen amongst some other things, but it doesn't mean life will always be peachy keen. It means that we bring ourselves to life with more ease and grace. We bring ourselves to the hard situations, and we don't get totally wrangled and taken off our foundation by them. That's what it is. In the flow of life, that's what that means. In the flow of life, to not resist or cling. That's when I'm in the flow of life, I'm not doing either one of those. And really what it means is that I'm willing to surrender. And surrender gets a bad rap, you know, because we think surrender, or we think of the idea of surrender as giving up. You know, I'm giving up. Or the idea of surrender as being someone else is going to win and I'm losing. You know, I'm giving up this and I'm giving up that. All right, with the surrender thing. But really, spiritual surrender is not that at all. Spiritual surrender takes a lot of strength. It takes a lot of trust. Spiritual strength says, you know what? It's admitting, and actually not just admitting, but demonstrating that I am not in charge. It's not just knowing that, it's demonstrating that. And that I'm willing to give it up to that higher power. I'm willing to turn it over. I'm willing to step back and not be the one who's directing my life. Oh, that sounds scary, doesn't it? That's why it takes so much courage, because what are we surrendering? We're surrendering the way we think it should be, the way we want it to be, how we think it should turn out, what it should look like in the end, who should notice. That's what we're surrendering. We're surrendering that picture that we think should be, and we're saying, you know what? I'm willing to trust. I'm willing to trust. That's what we're doing with surrender. If we're going to be in the flow of life, the operative word is surrender. The operative word is surrender. And when I do that, I have a life of freedom. I have a life that is more at ease, because I'm not out there resisting and clinging. Do you hear that? There are some things that tend to block us up, that tend to block that power of allow, block that up in us. And these are a couple things that came to my mind when I was thinking about this lesson, because, well, I'm thinking if I have this challenge that maybe some of you might also have it. So I'm just going to throw it out there. And the first one I would like to suggest that blocks up the flow of allow in us is this idea of blame. We like to blame somebody for our hardships or our difficulties. If we could just find somebody else to blame, we wouldn't have to take it our own responsibility for it. But the problem with blame is it backs us up. It blocks us from allowing life to flow through us. This idea of blame is a strong thing. And we would prefer that someone else be responsible, wouldn't we? But it blocks us up. It blocks us up. And it doesn't mean, for instance, it doesn't mean that people don't have accountability. You know, it means that I'm not attached to that in order to feel freedom in me. That's the difference. You know, it's not like if someone does do something that, or if I need to be accountable for that. I need to be accountable for that, but I don't need to carry around blame because of it, okay? I need to be able to step into freedom. There's this guy, I have a few notes here, that his name is Richard Phillips. He was in prison for 45 years for a murder he didn't commit. 45 years. And he was in prison because someone lied under oath and said that he was somewhere where he wasn't. Said he said something that he didn't say. And for 45 years, he was in prison. At about year 18, he started to paint while he was in prison. He started to paint, and this is what he said about painting in prison. He says, you know, the walls could not contain my creative spirit, he said. He said, I started to paint to fill the long days and to keep my heart soft and hope alive. I painted to keep my heart soft and hope alive. You see, when we release blame, that's the possibility. You know, I don't think he could be holding on to blame or any other negative emotion and decide to keep his heart soft and hope alive. And after he got out of prison, after 45 years, his attorney said, you know what, he adjusted pretty easily, in a sense, because he didn't hold any bitterness. He didn't hold any blame. And so he was able to get on with his life. So that's what's possible when we don't hold on to blame, is that we focus on ourselves, we focus on our needs, instead of this other entity or person. It's easy to blame. You know, we blame the government, we blame people, we blame our neighbor, pick somebody. You do it, I do it. But to live in allow, we must be able to release blame. The other thing that came to mind is this idea, and I've talked about it before here, but it bears repeating, is this idea that we have to let people know when we are right, and we have to let them know that they're wrong in that situation. This holding on to right and wrong is so strong, and it creates, again, a block in us that blocks the flow of life in us. Well, why are we so attached to that? You know, why can't I just be me and you be you? How about that? How about that? That's really the power of allow. But all you have to do is look at your Facebook feed, or read the news, or look at our government today, and you're like, this and that. We get all up in arms. And again, it doesn't mean that you can't be passionate about what you believe in. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't be passionate about calling bullies out and making sure that they're not harming other people. You know, it's not that at all. It's about our day-to-day existence and not being so righteous all the time. And just because I'm making myself right and making you wrong, it's time we got over that. It's time we really look in the mirror strongly and get over that. And when we do that, we create these places to allow. But you know, sometimes it is really hard, because some of this stuff that we're dealing with is painful. Some of it is really just gets us in the heart and in the gut. And it's really hard to create that space, to leave ourselves open, to leave that space for life to flow through us. So there's a couple things that you can do, that I can do. And one of the first things that came to mind is this idea of appreciation. And not just appreciate, like write in my journal what I appreciate, and not just tell somebody, oh, I appreciate you, but I'm talking about feeling appreciation. Feeling appreciation. Okay, not just saying it, not just the little love emojis with a bunch of hearts. I'm talking about feeling appreciation. You know, I had this experience, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, but I was laying in bed and I didn't want to get out of bed. I was just frustrated with my progress with my knee. I was like not wanting to get out of bed. I was just like, oh, I just wanted to roll over. I didn't want to get out of bed. I was having a good old pity party for me. And then I remembered this idea of appreciation, and I just started thinking of Renee. And I just started thinking of how much I appreciate her. And I let myself really feel how much I appreciate everything she does for me. You know, every morning, she makes my cup of tea. Every single morning. I get up, I go to the shower, I come out, she makes it in a thermos cup so it stays warm for a long time. And I come out there, and when I'm ready to drink that tea, it's like the perfect temperature, like every morning, you know. And I started thinking about that, and I started feeling a lot better about getting out of bed because of how much I appreciate you and how much I appreciate the little things. And I think that's the thing is I think we can feel that full appreciation for the small things. For the small things, not for the things we accomplish, like, oh, you know, I got this job, or I did this project, or I got this done. I'm talking about the small things, like the sound of rain, you know, or peanut butter and jelly, or, you know, a well-worn sweatshirt that just feels like so good because you've been wearing it for a couple days, you know, and it gets like really, really nice. You know, or maybe you like it fresh out of the laundry, I don't know. You know, those little things. I think we can feel that appreciation for those. I can tell by your smiles that that's the truth. You know, to appreciate that. So if you are feeling down, if you are feeling like you can't possibly go on, I'd say, hey, just find something small to appreciate. Something tiny. A cup of tea. You know, the drool from your dog splattering on the floor, you know. The love of that. And one other thing as well. I found that when I'm feeling my worst, when I'm feeling like I can't possibly go on, when I'm feeling like I can't possibly get over the hump, the thing that brings you out, that brings me up and out, is giving. I'm telling you, there is nothing that will switch the lamp in your psyche to a different level than to simply give. I'm talking give a smile, give an encouragement, give $100, give whatever it is. You know, give your time. You know, just on Saturday, most of you probably know this because it's happened right here in Wilmington, and that is that U.S. Army Specialist Antonio Moore, his body returned to Wilmington here after being killed in Syria. And there is a procession from the airport all the way out Martin Luther King Boulevard, down College Road, and over 41st Street, right over here to Wilmington Cremation. And a bunch of people showed up. A bunch of people were raising flags. A bunch of people showed up to say, hey, it matters. It matters. And it matters to give your time. It matters to show up. It didn't matter if they took down your name. It didn't matter who knew you were there. You just showed up. It's important to show up. There is nothing to lift you out of a dark place or the place of things just all bound up in you than to give your time, to show up at warm, to show up and make lunch, to make a difference. It is the thing you'll do, to say something to the clerk at the grocery store. Golly, it's not hard stuff, but we have to remember to do it, to clear out that space for allow, to clear out that space in us. The space of allow is really an opening through which the divine is known in the world and through which you know the divine itself. That's what I think it is. So as we go into meditation this afternoon, I encourage you to think about these lessons. Think about these practices. Think about moving things out of the way in your own self. Think about releasing this tendency to be right and make others wrong. Think about how you can appreciate in small ways the smallest thing. And then after you think about it, let it go. Let it go and simply be present right here. Let the thoughts go. Let the mind be still. And bring yourself into a place of ease. A feeling of grace. Simply breathing in and breathing out. know not who I will meet or with whom I will journey. I know not what the day will hold or what the night will whisper. Not knowing what lies ahead excites me and gives me hope. For I know you are always with me. I believe, I have hope, hope that there will be rainbows and colors and dreams beyond what I could ever imagine. And with this hope I surrender to the magic of life and to your divine design.